The Texas sunset spilled across the quiet roads of Briar Glen, streaking the sky with gold and amber. Captain Brielle Dawson exhaled deeply as her silver SUV turned off County Road 17. She was heading home, finally, after 14 hours of debriefs, paperwork, and one too many coffees gone cold. She rolled down the window. The breeze smelled like rain on dust and spring grass. She loved this stretch of road. Quiet, tree-lined, and just 5 minutes from her front porch and a leftover casserole waiting in the fridge. But tonight, that peace was a lie. As she signaled for a right turn, like she always did, flashing red and blue lit up her rearview mirror. Her jaw tightened. She hadn't sped, hadn't swerved, hadn't done anything wrong, but here it was. The ritual. She eased the car to a stop, flipped on the cabin light, and placed both hands firmly on the wheel. Every movement calm, measured, familiar. A cruiser door slammed behind her. Boot steps crunched gravel. A flashlight sliced through the dusk. Too bright, too fast, like it had something to prove. Then, a voice. License and registration. No greeting, no explanation, just the words, cold and flat, from Officer Reed Malloy, badge glinting in the light. Brielle turned slowly, hands still visible. "Evening, officer," she said. "May I ask why I'm being stopped?" Malloy didn't answer, didn't blink. "Just hand him over, ma'am. Let's not make this complicated." Her grip tightened on the wheel. She could have complied, could have played small. But that had never been her way, not when she'd climbed through the ranks of the FBI, not when she'd taken down a cartel boss in El Paso, and not now, on a back road of the very town she helped protect. "Officer," she said, voice low, measured, iron beneath silk. "I'm Captain Brielle Dawson, Deputy Director of the FBI's Dallas Field Office. I'd still like to know the cause of this stop." A pause. Then, Malloy's eyes narrowed. "You fit the profile." 4 words, spoken like a verdict, spoken like a trigger. Brielle's heart didn't race, but something in her jaw shifted, a silent signal like a warning bell. She had walked into federal standoffs. She had sat across from serial liars, trained to break people down. And yet, nothing felt more personal than this. The weight of his stare, the silence that followed, the badge on his chest, daring her to move. The air between them thickened, heavy, electric, like the moment before a storm. Officer Malloy didn't move, didn't blink. His flashlight beam burned into Brielle's face like an accusation. "Step out of the vehicle," he said. Flat, mechanical, like pressing play on a rehearsed tape. Brielle didn't flinch. "I asked for a reason. I gave you one," he snapped. "You fit the profile. Now step out of the car." She leaned back slowly, hands still on the wheel, her voice calm as glass. "I've broken no law. There's no probable cause. You're escalating this without justification, and that's a problem." Malloy's jaw clenched. "I said, you don't get to bark orders when the law isn't on your side," Brielle cut in, her voice sharp but level. "And trust me, Officer Malloy, I know exactly where the law stands." His hand drifted toward his belt. It didn't touch the holster, but it hovered. A threat, unspoken, but crystal clear. She saw it, felt it, filed it like evidence. Then she reached, slowly, deliberately, for her ID. No sudden moves, no panic. She flipped open the leather case and held it out the window. The gold badge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation gleamed under the moonlight. "Read it out loud," she said. Malloy hesitated. His flashlight dropped to the badge. Then, like a glitch in his armor, his mouth twitched. But it wasn't apology. It was annoyance. "This don't change a thing," he muttered. Brielle tilted her head. "You sure about that?" A pause. Then, behind them, tires crunched on gravel. Another car pulled up. A sleek black SUV, government plates, tinted windows. Out stepped Detective KaYi Brooks, tall, black, sharply dressed, Brielle's second in command, and tonight, her backup. "Evening, Captain," he called out, his voice smooth but heavy with concern. "Got your location ping. Everything all right?" Brielle didn't take her eyes off Malloy. "Not yet." Malloy stiffened. "You sent backup?" He scoffed. "No," she said. "I sent a warning." Brooks approached the scene slowly, hands visible, his eyes scanning Malloy, reading posture, tone, intent, like he was back in Quantico. "Officer," he said calmly, "you aware of who you've pulled over?" Malloy's lip curled. "I don't give special treatment." Brooks nodded, calm as ever. "Good. Because what you just did, that wasn't treatment. That was targeting." Malloy opened his mouth, then stopped. The badge. The second witness. The phone. Brielle's phone. Still recording from the dash. He looked cornered. Because he was. Brielle leaned slightly out the window. "You wanted to make this complicated," she said softly. "Now, it's complicated." And in the silence that followed, the only sound was the night wind blowing through Briar Glen. Cold. Still. Waiting. The silence wasn't quiet. It buzzed. Beneath skin. Between stares. Like static before a broadcast. Officer Malloy shifted his weight, arms crossed tight across his chest. His eyes flicked from Detective Brooks to Captain Dawson, then to the blinking light on her dashcam. He knew he was caught, but he wasn't ready to fold. Not yet. "I didn't know who she was," he muttered, loud enough for the camera. "I thought something was off. That's all." Brooks raised an eyebrow. "You thought something was off," he echoed. "Is that your official statement, officer?" Malloy shrugged, looked suspicious. Brielle exhaled through her nose, slow, controlled. "I was driving 35. Signal on every turn, no broken taillights, no traffic violation." Malloy didn't respond. She turned to Brooks. "Pull up the department's racial profiling statistics." Brooks didn't hesitate. One tap, and the screen on his phone glowed with data. Briar Glen PD stopped black drivers 6 times more than white drivers last quarter, he said flatly. No increase in violations, just stops. Brielle's eyes narrowed. "Sound familiar?" Malloy swallowed. Behind them, a porch light clicked on from a nearby house. A figure peeked through the blinds. Another witness. Another pair of eyes. Brooks stepped forward, lowering his voice. "You pulled over the deputy director of an FBI field office, then escalated it without cause. Do you know how many cameras are rolling right now, officer?" Malloy stiffened, saying nothing. Brooks continued. "You could have walked away, but you kept pressing. You had her at gunpoint." Malloy's face twisted. "I didn't shoot. You didn't have to," Brielle cut in, "because the damage is already done." Her voice was steel now, shaped by years of command, sharpened by nights just like this. "And here's what happens next." She opened her door, slow, deliberate, and stepped out. Malloy instinctively reached for his belt again. Brooks moved between them in a flash. "Don't," he said, firm, final. Malloy froze. Brielle stared him down, unblinking. "You think this ends here?" "No, Officer Malloy. This is just the opening scene." She walked past him, calm, confident, untouchable. Brooks followed, their steps echoing on the pavement. Behind them, Malloy stood frozen, hands still near his belt, power draining by the second, because the badge didn't protect him anymore. Not from the law, and not from her. The morning air in Briar Glen was unusually still. News vans lined up outside the courthouse, like vultures sensing blood. Inside the FBI field office, Captain Brielle Dawson stood in front of a conference room screen. Her arms crossed as a muted news anchor mouthed the words, "FBI official racially profiled by local cop." The footage had gone viral overnight. Not the whole stop, but enough. Officer Reed Malloy's voice rang out from dashboard audio, clear as day. Your car looked out of place. Then the shout, "Get out or I'll pull you out myself." And finally, a frame-by-frame freeze of him pointing his weapon, steady and unprovoked, directly at Brielle's chest. She didn't flinch in the video. She didn't flinch now. Her jaw locked tight as Detective KaYi Brooks stepped into the room, tablet in hand. "Ma'am, the file's everywhere now. Local bloggers, national outlets, X threads, you name it." Brielle nodded once. "And the body cam?" KaYi hesitated. It conveniently went dark at the worst moment. But we recovered 17 seconds from the backup system. Enough to show he never gave a lawful reason. And the dispatcher call logs? Nothing. He never radioed in the stop. Completely off protocol. She didn't reply, just stared at the footage again. At her own reflection in the car window, still and composed, while a gun trembled in the corner of the frame. The door burst open. Tara Bloom, sharp-suited and fire-eyed, stormed in like she owned the air. "Brielle, I need a quote. This story's exploding. Half the city is protesting and the mayor's MIA. You'll get a statement," Brielle said, voice even. "But not before I talk to internal affairs." Tara's eyes narrowed. "They'll stonewall. Don't let them control the narrative. If you don't speak, someone else will. And it won't be you." She wasn't wrong. Public pressure was mounting. Outside, protesters chanted, "No more silence. No more fear." Their signs bore Brielle's face, half-shadowed by the dashboard's dim light. A symbol now. Not just a woman. Back inside, Colby Rhodes, the internal affairs investigator, arrived unannounced. "Captain Dawson, you're needed upstairs. The director wants a debrief. Full timeline. Every word. Every second." Brielle glanced at KaYi, then back at Colby. "Make sure the footage is secured. Every backup, every copy. Already done," KaYi said. "And one more thing. Malloy lawyered up this morning. Claims he feared for his life." Tara scoffed from the corner. "Of course he did. And I suppose he feared your calm voice and empty hands." No one laughed. Not today. As Captain Brielle Dawson headed toward the upper floors of the FBI office, 100 eyes followed her. Screens, cameras, phones. She wasn't just a senior agent anymore. She was a flashpoint, and the next 24 hours would decide not just her career, but the soul of Briar Glen itself. Courtroom 3A in Briar Glen County Courthouse was packed beyond capacity. Every seat was taken. Reporters, off-duty officers, students with notebooks, all leaned forward, breathless. At the front, under the soaring arch of the American flag, Captain Brielle Dawson sat poised at the witness stand. She wore her FBI badge clipped to a plain navy suit. No medals, no rank stripes, just truth. Across from her, Officer Reed Malloy slumped behind the defense table. His lawyer, thin, wiry, desperate, adjusted his tie every 30 seconds. The judge, Colonel Adrian Wyatt, leaned in from the bench, voice firm. "Captain Dawson, in your words, explain what happened on the night of March 12th. She didn't pause, didn't blink. "I was driving home. No speeding, no signal violations. I followed every regulation. Then I saw flashing lights behind me. And what happened next? He approached with his hand already on his belt, flashlight in my eyes. No greeting, no explanation. He said my car looked out of place. I asked for a reason. He threatened to remove me from the vehicle. When I refused without cause, he drew his weapon." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Tara Bloom, seated in the gallery, typed furiously on her laptop. The defense attorney rose. Captain Dawson, isn't it true you escalated the situation by refusing a lawful order? Brielle turned toward the jury. Refusing an unlawful order is not escalation. It is my right. The attorney shifted. But he didn't know who you were. She nodded. Exactly. That's the point. This isn't about rank. It's about rights. Detective KaYi Brooks, seated near the prosecution, leaned forward as the defense attorney's face flushed. Let's be honest, the man snapped. Isn't this just a case of poor communication gone wrong? Brielle's voice stayed calm. No. It's a case of unchecked power meeting protected silence. Judge Wyatt banged the gavel once. Enough. This court isn't here for philosophy. It's here for facts. Continue. The prosecutor stood next. Captain Dawson, did you record the incident? I did. And is that video currently part of the public record? Yes, Your Honor. The screen behind her flickered to life. The footage played. The glow of her dashboard. The knock on the glass. The shout. The weapon. Gasps filled the room. Even the judge looked shaken. As the lights came back on, silence hung like a held breath. Brielle looked at the jury. You don't have to believe me. Just watch the tape. You'll see everything I said. And everything he didn't. Outside, chants echoed faintly through the courtroom windows. Justice for Dawson. Justice for all. Inside, no one moved. Not the judge. Not the defendant. Not the jurors, who now held more than a verdict in their hands. They held the future of Briar Glen. The jury took 6 hours. 6 hours of silence behind closed doors. 6 hours of waiting for truth to pass judgment. Inside courtroom 3A, every breath was held. Deputy Chief Vernon Stack sat rigid at the prosecution table, arms folded, lips tight. Detective KaYi Brooks tapped a pen against his knee, his usually cool demeanor slipping. In the gallery, Ariel Chan clutched her phone, live streaming to thousands across the country. At the front, the door creaked open. 12 men and women filed in, eyes solemn. No emotion, no glance at Officer Reed Malloy, who sat pale, hands clasped too tightly in his lap. The forewoman stood. Judge Colonel Adrian Wyatt nodded once. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. A beat, then, on the charge of unlawful use of force. Guilty. On the charge of threatening a civilian without cause. Guilty. On the charge of racial profiling in violation of state statute. Guilty. A collective exhale broke the stillness. In the back row, someone clapped, then stopped. Judge Wyatt didn't react. Officer Malloy, please rise. He stood, but barely, as if his legs had already betrayed him. This court sentences you to 3 years in state prison, no parole, and permanent removal from all law enforcement duties statewide. Gasps rippled. No bail, no second chance, just consequences. Outside the courthouse, the crowd erupted. Chants, cheers, signs reading, Briar Glen is watching. Accountability now. No more shadows. Inside, Officer Malloy turned once toward Brielle. His expression wasn't anger. It was confusion. Like he still didn't understand what he'd done wrong. But Brielle didn't meet his gaze. She was already rising, already walking past him, past the judge, past the courtroom that had finally spoken. Outside, flashbulbs popped, microphones thrust forward, voices overlapped. Captain Dawson, how do you feel? Do you think justice was served? Is this the start of a larger investigation? She held up one hand. The press quieted. Her voice, when it came, was measured, purposeful. This verdict wasn't about me. It was about a moment. And what happens when we stop letting moments like that slip away? Pause. I'm not here for headlines. I'm here for every voice that didn't get heard, every driver who didn't have a camera, every citizen who didn't wear a badge. Behind her, the courthouse doors opened. A sheriff led Malloy out in cuffs. No sunglasses, no shield. Just a man exposed. And in the heart of Briar Glen, something shifted. Not everything, not overnight, but enough to begin. 2 weeks after the trial, the streets of Briar Glen, Texas were quieter. But something was stirring beneath the surface. Not anger, not fear, but momentum. At City Hall, under fluorescent lights and tired ceilings, Captain Brielle Dawson sat across from the mayor, 3 council members, and a room full of skeptics. She wasn't in uniform, just a dark blazer, a plain notebook, and conviction. The mayor leaned forward. "So, Captain, what exactly are you proposing?" Brielle didn't blink. Mandatory body cameras, always on. Quarterly racial bias training, led by civilians, not consultants. A community oversight board with real teeth. The power to investigate, to subpoena, to hold us accountable. The room shifted. Councilmember Lockett cleared his throat. "That sounds like a lot of change." "It's overdue," Brielle said. Her voice didn't rise, but it landed. Solid, unshakable. Across town, Detective Kean Brooks was in a different room. A high school gym turned forum. Parents, teachers, teens in hoodies and Jordans, arms crossed, eyes skeptical. He stood at the mic. "I've been a cop in this town 12 years, he said. "I've seen how the system works, and how it doesn't. I didn't speak up before. I should have. That's on me. But I'm here now." A hand went up in the back. A girl, maybe 17. "So, what changes for us? The kids getting pulled over for no reason?" Kean looked at her. Really looked. "It starts with trust. But that only happens if you're sitting at the table with us. We don't fix this without you." She didn't smile, but she nodded, just once. Elsewhere, Ariel Chan hit upload on her latest video. Title: What Happens After Justice? Inside Briar Glen's Reckoning. Within 2 hours. 30,000 views. By midnight, 200,000. The world was watching, and in those days after the verdict, things moved fast. The Briar Glen Police Department adopted new guidelines. All stops must include documented cause. All complaints go straight to the civilian board. Deputy Chief Vernon Stack publicly apologized for not acting sooner. "Silence is complicity," he said. "I own that. The city council passed reform bills, narrow margins, but they passed. And every yes was cheered by a crowd that refused to stay quiet." Back in her office, Brielle pinned something new to the wall. Not a commendation, not a press clipping. It was a hand-drawn poster from a local middle schooler. Crayon letters, crooked stars. It read, "Thanks for keeping it real, Captain Dawson." She smiled, then picked up the phone. "We're just getting started," she said. 2 months later, the badge still sat on her desk, not on her chest, not clipped to her belt, on the desk where she'd left it after the verdict. Captain Brielle Dawson hadn't quit, but she hadn't gone back to patrol either. Not yet. She'd taken something bigger, harder, quieter. The job no one asked for, but everyone needed. Rebuilding what was broken, from the inside out. She met weekly with the oversight board, monthly with students, and quietly, almost anonymously, with families who'd been hurt before the cameras ever rolled. Sometimes it meant listening. Other times, apologizing. Once, it meant walking an elderly man to court. The same man whose grandson had been roughed up by a rookie 2 years ago. "You don't owe me that," he'd said. Brielle had only smiled. No, sir. But the badge does. Down the hallway, Detective Kian Brooks was training new recruits. Not in handcuffs, not in radio codes, but in respect, empathy, real-world de-escalation. He ran a drill called the mirror test. Each cadet sat across from a civilian, just talking, then switching roles. "You're no good with a gun," one teen told a trainee. "You're scared." The cadet blinked, then nodded. "You're right, I was." Out in the community, Tara Bloom stood at a podium at a local library, flanked by activists, teachers, and 3 patrol officers, all in uniform. "Change doesn't mean less safety," she said. "It means more dignity, more humanity, and yes, more accountability." The crowd clapped, not loud, but long. The clip aired that night, and a kid in Detroit messaged Tara, "Wish you were in my town." She messaged back, "Keep watching, we'll get there." Meanwhile, Ariel Chan released a docu-short, Badge and Burden, What Justice Feels Like in Briar Glen. It went viral in 18 hours. Covered by MSNBC. Picked up by teachers in civics classes. At home, Brielle Dawson finally picked up her badge, held it in her palm. The weight felt different now. Not heavier, just real. Her daughter walked in, holding a drawing. 2 stick figures. One wore a badge. The other held a sign, "Speak Truth." "Is this me?" Brielle asked. The girl nodded. "No, that's you. But the one with the sign, that's everyone else." Brielle laughed softly. "Then we're in good company." She clipped the badge back on. Not because she needed it to lead, but because it meant something again. Not fear, not silence, not power for power's sake. Just this. Service rebuilt. One voice, one case, one street at a time. If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you that courage doesn't always wear a uniform, sometimes it speaks truth to the one who does, then don't just scroll past. Subscribe to KaYi, share your voice, drop a comment below, because change starts with conversations like this. Tomorrow, we've got another story that challenges, uplifts, and dares us to imagine better. See you then.